says.
Well, the Prime Minister, he got the brunt of a lot of wrath yesterday as well, and but he has told people who rioted last night they will feel the full force of the law. So that's what he said. Let's go to Southport this morning. We've got two reporters there this morning. Let's go to Sophie Reaper, and we've got Will Hollis there as well.
Well, good morning to you both once again. We're back here on the scene of where that heinous attack took place. Now, our viewers who were watching yesterday will remember that at this point of the cordon yesterday, there were only a handful of bunches of flowers. I now want to show what it looks like here this morning, if we can just pan onto that. There are now hundreds of bunches of flowers here, and I just want to take some time this morning to read out a few of those messages, because I think they really convey that this is a community that is hurting but has come together. We can see one here, for example, to the three angels taken far too soon. Of course, we heard the names of those three little girls yesterday and we saw their faces, incredibly heartbreaking. Such beautiful bunches of flowers here. One here, we never met you, but our thoughts and prayers are with your families and your little angels. You're in our thoughts. This one, all the way from Salford, so people coming from the Greater Manchester region, a good hour away from here in Southport, just to pay their respects and give their sympathies. I think this is a really important one. I'll just walk slightly up to see if my cameraman can show this one off. The first line, I think, here is really poignant. Why? I just don't understand why. And I think that is the question that's going to be on a lot of people's lips over the coming days and weeks as we try and work out exactly what happened. I'll just cross over here. There are balloons, of course, as well. Dozens and dozens of cuddly toys as well. Now, this one I want to point out as well. A really simple message here. Forever Swifties. Now, of course, we know those three little girls were participating in a Taylor Swift dance and yoga class at the start of their summer holidays. You can just imagine it was carefree. There would have been laughter filling the room. Where we also know that the fundraiser that has been set up is now, at the last count, I believe it was just over £270,000 has been raised in memory of those little girls, but also for the others who were injured in the attack. But so many, the heart of the nation bleeds for you. As we keep coming down, an amazing drawing just there, if we can show this one, done by a child in the local area. Sweet dreams, we love you. I mean, yesterday we saw so many children here coming to lay flowers. This isn't just adults that will be affected by this, of course. This is people's families. This is a community in grieving, and children will come. I imagine that many of these cuddly toys will have belonged to children in the community, but they wanted to contribute. They wanted to lay down something personal that belonged to them. Can see a couple here from Leeds, even from over the Pennines, people coming from far and wide to pay their respects and their sympathies. Now, this next one is something that really tugged at my heartstrings this morning, Eamon and Ellie. Here we can see some angel wings that have been laid down, some children's angel wings there, fairy wings, 3 packs there for the 3 little girls who gained their wings after such a horrific attack. It really does break your heart when you read it. Incredibly emotional this morning, reading those messages and seeing just the sheer volume of messages and flowers here. And it's the same at the other end of the cordon, that perhaps even more down there. You can just tell that this is a community that has been truly, truly affected by this horrendous attack that took those lives and put those other children and the 2 adults in such a critical condition. We're still waiting, of course, to hear about their conditions over the coming days. But yes, just really heartbreaking, but also moving, and it almost restores a little bit of your faith after the scenes from last night to see such beauty here at such a time of heartbreak.
Absolutely heartbreaking, Sophie, and to see that outpouring of grief and emotion in that community, you can't even imagine how it's been affected.
Before we go to Will Hollis, though, thanks, Sophie. I think we should highlight the woman in whose name all of this was, Taylor Swift, and she actually released a statement. What did she have to say?
Yeah, she's released a statement on Instagram saying the horror of yesterday's attack in Southport is washing over me continuously, and I'm just completely in shock. The loss of life and innocence, the horrendous trauma inflicted on everyone who was there, the families and the first responders. They were just little kids at a dance class. I'm at a complete loss for how to ever convey my sympathies to these families. And her fans, since then, have raised more than £230,000 in an online fundraiser for the community.
And when you see Taylor Swift and you think, for this to be done, her name associated with it forever, it's an awful burden.
And those little girls enjoying her music and dancing to her music.
Totally.
It will break her heart.
Yeah.
And it's almost this outpouring of grief, this outpouring of emotion. We've just seen it from Sophie, we just heard it from Taylor Swift there. And the clean-up operation taking place this morning, it's the good of humanity. But we saw the ugly side of it all yesterday, didn't we? The scene of the riots last night. Will Hollis is there for us. What happened last night, Will?
Yes, good morning, both. The soundtrack of summer nights here in Southport this week has been punctuated by the sound of police sirens and helicopters. This morning, the streets of Southport are punctuated by the sound of street sweepers and diggers. And just to give you a bit of a sense of what's happening here in Southport is after some people tried to tear the streets apart, local people are trying to put it back together. You can see that most people, instead of arming themselves with bricks, like is what we saw last night, people are arming themselves with shovels and brooms and brushes. Where we are right now is exactly where this disorder happened, violent disorder. Over here on the right-hand side, this is the mosque, which was really the centre of it. You can see that all of the windows are boarded up, the fence panels have been torn apart and people's vehicles have been smashed. Just on the other side of this fence, there was a police van on fire last night as hundreds of rioters that the police have said are mainly from out of town. One MP described them as violent thugs. They tore apart the streets and threw bricks at the police officers. The North West Ambulance Service this morning have said in a statement that they treated 39 people overnight, and they said all of them were police officers. We saw police officers that didn't have any riot gear walking away from the violent disorder with blood covering their faces. The scenes were like something that I have never seen before in my, what we'll describe as a short career so far as a journalist. But I don't think people have seen anything like this on British streets for quite some time. This is a community that was the centre of tensions and boiling points that erupted last night. All of this, the authorities would say, is inspired by speculation after the tragic killings of 3 very young girls aged 9, 7 and 6, Alice, Elsie and Bibi. And this is at a time when a community is trying to make sense of something so awful, an addition that just makes it all the more confusing and I think upsetting this morning and last night. Eamon and Ellie, but you can see here that the people here are the people of Southport that were probably up at the crack of dawn this morning. Last night, when I was trying to drive back to where we were staying here in Southport, it took a lot longer than I imagined a normal journey because it was police roadblock after police roadblock. I've honestly never seen so many police driving around on the streets, blocking roads, flashing lights and sirens, but also so many roads that have been barricaded off with wheelie bins that were set on fire. And many of those wheelie bins that have been set on fire were being extinguished by local people with garden hoses saying you can't come through this way, you need to turn around. A Section 60 dispersal order remains in place until around 8 o'clock tonight, and the police say they will be targeting the people that caused this violent disorder here in Southport.
Such a beautiful day, such a terrible, terrible story. Will, thank you very much indeed for conveying that to us.
But how heartwarming to see all those people out with their brooms, and thank you, Will, for bringing that to us.
That's community, isn't it?
That is community, right, yeah.
That's for Elsie and Bibi and Alice.